On the journey of healing, one of the most important things that we can look at are defense mechanisms. And it's so interesting because this realization has come to me through the process of recognizing how much my own defense mechanisms frustrate me, right? And the more I've, kind of progressed on this journey of healing for myself, I've become more aware of my defense mechanisms and what they mean. So the interesting thing here is that I'm tying so many different aspects of the journey of healing into like recognizing, my defense mechanisms and stuff, the things that mess me up and all that. And I'm realizing that, of course, in childhood, one of the things that we needed that we didn't receive was love, right? Was validation. And as a result of that, we learned to not love ourselves and not validate ourselves. But what's interesting, looking specifically at defense mechanisms, is that in my own personal life, I've looked at mine and I recognize how frustrated I am with them. Right? Whether it's projections, whether it's repression, regression, denial, whatever it is, right? They can be really frustrating, and it can be really easy to just want to be very despising of them, right? Just recognize them as, negativity and not want anything to do with them. However, it's very important to look at them. It's very important to sit with them. Defense mechanisms can teach us so much about ourselves because they're there for a reason. They were formed for a reason. In our development, they were created to defend against the ego, right? Or, how all that stuff works. They're there for a reason. In terms of the development of the id, the ego, and the superego, they developed, right? And it's not a matter of like good or bad. It's just a matter of understanding what they are and why they're there. And one of the biggest things that I've been doing recently, because I've been sitting with things from the past, I've been sitting with memories and stuff, and I've been recognizing that my capacity to just put love where it's needed, right? A lot of us didn't receive love growing up. Maybe we were abandoned, maybe, whatever it was, whatever traumatized us. It wasn't love and it messed us up. So therefore, the interesting thing here to do is to put love there, right? You could look at your past and be like, ugh, right? But the more that you do that, the more you disconnect and separate yourself from yourself, and especially your inner child. So what's important to do here is to sit with all that stuff and, give it love. Put love there. In that space, put love. Because you're giving yourself what it was that you didn't receive growing up. And that's the biggest challenge here. So, specifically looking at defense mechanisms, if you're aware of yours, that's a really good space to be in. If you can learn to give your defense mechanisms love and love them, that's also an even more beneficial space of awareness to be in, because you recognize it really comes down to this. Your defense mechanisms are there for a reason. They formed, they developed for a reason. Understanding why they're there can help you understand yourself so much more, and can also much more productively benefit your process and your journey of healing. And as I've been sitting with this, at first I came to the realization that I just need to put love where I want to resist, right? When you can do that, that in and of itself is just so powerful. The capacity to put love towards that which, might be like, ugh, right? Because there's a part of you that was so conditioned into that disgust, into that guilt, into that shame, into all those negative, low energy emotions. And that was probably from your parents, right? I guess that kind of goes into shadow work, because we become fragmented, right? Different parts of ourselves are, we learn to disown different parts of ourselves because we learn in the household growing up that those parts of ourselves are not acceptable. And then we go out into society and then we kind of hide those things from society, right? So it's also loving those parts. Everything that you want to push out, everything that you want to resist, learning to love those things and learning to just allow them to be there and sit with them and understand them. Again, we learned defense mechanisms for a reason. And understanding those defense mechanisms can really help understand, you as a person, how you developed, why you developed the way that you did, and just being there with all that stuff. It's very powerful. It completely allows you to connect with yourself on a much deeper level, and it challenges your capacity to see yourself more thoroughly, right? And that's super important. But as I've been sitting with this, I've just been noticing for myself that, like, there are things that I look at and I'm just like, yuck, 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 like total resistance, right? Just like, ugh, right? But then the part of me that wants to reconnect with my inner child, the part of me that didn't receive what it needed growing up, recognizes, okay, well, back then you were just doing the best that you could for yourself. You don't need to despise or resist that part of yourself. You don't need to give into what it is that you learned about how you should, guilt yourself, how you should be ashamed of yourself just because people taught you that. Like, those are low energy emotions, and they're not necessary. So allowing yourself, though, as well, at the same time, to feel the guilt and the shame, you need to feel it to heal it, because so oftentimes we're taught to be so ashamed of ourselves that we even suppress the feeling of shame. Like, shame in and of itself is so interesting, because it's like you should be so ashamed that you shouldn't even feel the shame. Like, it's so interesting. It's multi-layered. And when you pull back the layers, you realize that it's just noise, and that we're all just humans, and our capacity to heal is so dependent on our ability to just relax into whatever is there and be with it and allow it to kind of manifest itself and then go. Like, we have so many blockages, and that's a result of how we were raised and the trauma that we experienced growing up. But challenging that narrative, and instead of pushing things out that feel uncomfortable, sitting with them, allowing them to be there, loving them. Like, when I say love, like, we have become so suppressed. We have learned to suppress so much of our stuff that if we just allow it to be there and just sit with it and just love it, it literally changes the dynamics of everything. And of course, there have been years and years of conditioning, belief systems and everything. Oh, I could never allow myself to, oh, I could never allow myself to, oh, I could never allow myself, oh, I could, just literally a broken record on repeat. And when you sit with that in and of itself, just giving love to everything deserves love. A capacity to heal requires the ability to sit with what is and love it. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter how cringeworthy it might be. It doesn't matter how much resistance is there. It doesn't matter the ideas that you've been taught about it, that, like, no, you should never approach that because this, that, and the other. The shoulds. Just sit with all of it and just love it, and you'll see how so much noise and so much layers just peels back and falls away and deteriorates, and just shows you that everything, at least the far majority of what you've been taught, is just complete bullshit. And it's fascinating to sit with that. So this is a very powerful tool to utilize on the journey of healing.